directly in the aim of many of the rockets, many, we're talking about thousands and thousands of rockets, is the Israeli town of Sderot, literally at the edge of Gaza. Representing the community of Sderot is Yossi Baumel, a longtime activist. Yossi is the director of the American Friends of Sderot, and in a couple of minutes he'll sketch to you.
Thank you very much, Glenn. Just a personal note for me, this is a return to the scene of the crime. As a teenager growing up here in New York, we demonstrated to Soviet Jewry with Glenn. We demonstrated to Israel, and I'm happy that I was here this week. I was happy that I was here this week to be able to attend this event once again. I don't want to come here and cry to you about the horrible things that had their plan to use all those tunnels together taking place on Rosh Hashanah that could have even captured an entire town like Sderot, encircled it before the army came and butchered the 24,000 people in that town. So I also want to come and give advice to our leaders. I think they know what they're doing. I do want to tell you two things. First of all, I want to explain to you what that building is over there, and I want to explain to you what those people are doing over there. If the world would understand the miraculous redemption that is down the road for the Jewish people, I don't know if it's next year or tomorrow or 10 years, but they would understand it. They would all work 1,000 times harder than they are today to stop the redemption of the Jewish people in the land of Israel. Number two, the Gaon Mivilna in the Zohar, a book called Kol HaTor, said that building, they didn't know about that building yet, but he said that our enemies and the nations of the world would use the big lie as their biggest weapon. And he told his students, Emet me'eretz titzmach, the truth springs from the ground, not from the PR companies and not from the Facebook pages, and all those things are very worthy and very important, but it's important to hold on to the land. So that's one thing you have to understand, that what's going on in the world that is hard to understand is part of the camouflage. Some people say Israel is too right-wing. Some people say Israel is too left-wing. Some people say Israel is too religious. Some people say it's not religious enough. Everybody's got a complaint, and while we're all arguing, everything is moving ahead according to plan. So that's one thing you have to understand. The second thing is, I want to tell you a little about what's been happening in Israel, not the bad things. There are many people who are sitting shiva right now. Thank God my son and son-in-law both returned to the Gaza Strip today, yesterday in time for the fast. But there have been a lot of sadness in the world. But I want to tell you about the really important thing. It's not how much weapons we destroyed. It's not how far in we went into the Gaza Strip. But it's a different story completely. It's a spiritual story. It's a story of how a nation united around three boys and then united around the mission of taking out our enemies in a way that we have not seen since the 6-Day War and maybe not even before. And everybody likes to talk about Achdut, and this is the day to talk about unity. Why is unity so important? We know that the redemption will come to a generation, Shekulo Chayav Ukulo Zakai, one that is entirely guilty or entitled to the redemption. When Jews, every one of us, does some kind of a mitzvah, you do one kind, I do another kind. As individuals, we're not doing too well. But when we're united, when your mitzvah is my mitzvah, when my mitzvah is your mitzvah, when we're all united, Lo Habit Abel Yaakov, Bilam said that God does not see the sins of the Jewish people when they're united, and all he sees, V'amech Kulam Tzadikim, when they're united, then they're all tzaddikim. And this is what's happening in Israel. And this is a structure, it's a real thing. It's a spirit that's being built in Israel today. And all of you, and all those people who jumped on planes to come stay in Sderot to last Shabbat and the Shabbat before, and all the people coming to Israel, feel that pull. The land of Israel is calling to its children to come home. Every birthright group that comes to Sderot, I asked them if they lived under the missiles, would they live here? And they said, no, we'd move away. And I say, that's not because you don't know who you are. To be a Jew is not a religion. It's not an ethnic group. It's a nationality. They're Frenchmen, they're Englishmen, and they're Jews. And the Jews come from Judea, and they have a piece of land that calls them back throughout the years to come back and take away what was stolen from us. And that's what's happening right now in Israel. Let us hope and pray that if we unite the way we're supposed to unite, and we continue to do those things that we did over the last few weeks, helping, and trying not to say Lashon Hara about other people, but rather see the good side of everybody, and you really, really unite, then we'll get to build the real United Nations. Ki beiti beit tefillah, yikarei l'chol hamim, the building that will be a house of worship for all nations. Thank you very much.
If you have a regular Art Scroll Siddur, please note that we add the Anenu prayer for a fast day, or the Nachem prayer, and in the end of the Amidah, we say Sim Shalom instead of Shalom Rav. All those should be marked in the Art Scroll Siddur in the appropriate places.
Great heroines in the Jewish community. Barbara Ribikoff, who's the director of the North American Conference on Ethiopian Jews, and Helen Friedman, who's director of Americans for a Safe Israel. Emblematic of the endangered communities and what our ability to effect the change has been the Jewish community in Ethiopia. And each year, Barbara gives us a short update on the Jewish communities, and in this case, since most of Ethiopian Jews have arrived in Israel, perhaps we'll hear a little bit of that. Barbara Ribikoff.
I don't usually do very well with the microphone. Can everybody hear? Okay. I was going to tell you something in detail about the 2 Ethiopian soldiers who have died in this battle. One of them in Gaza on the first day, one of them in Israel against a group of terrorists who emerged from a tunnel near a kibbutz near and were fought back by, among others, warrant officer and chief scout. A warrant officer and chief scout, Kasahun Hassan, whose name was mentioned, and also the name of Moshe Malaku. Kasahun was a career officer, age 39, 20 years in the IDF. Kasahun was a young man, not even yet married, and they are mourned terribly among all the others. But I heard the name of Speaker from Gilboa read this morning, and I had been reading something just this morning about him. Speaker is not an Ethiopian, but he is a man from the Gilboa area who was embracing Ethiopian Jews in 2 absorption centers near him, Gilboa and Beit Aleph. He was killed, as you know, and the community in the Gilboa Absorption Center decided they wanted to do something for his family. A shipment of clothes for the new immigrants had just arrived at the absorption center, but instead of being distributed among the immigrants, they held a sale of all those clothes that had been meant for them and their children, raised 6,000 shekel, and bought toys for the young children of Speaker and his wife Adi, and took them to the kibbutz where they lived. This is indeed a world of unity among Jews. I will tell you one more thing very briefly. Years ago, during the masks, like something in a science fiction movie, there were many Ethiopian Jews waiting to come to Israel in our compound in Addis Ababa. And I visited them during that time, and although the compound was full of thousands of people, it was very silent to me. I couldn't figure out why until I realized that the background Ethiopian music, recorded music that always played all day, wasn't playing. And when I asked, I was told that the Ethiopian said it had to be turned off because it's not right to listen to music when Israel is in danger. The men of the community kept coming over to me and saying, when will it be my turn? I want to go to Israel. They knew about the missiles, they knew about the Scuds, they knew about the gas masks. All they wanted was to get to Israel and fight for our country. This is a land of the Jews. It doesn't matter where they came from, it doesn't matter what kind of Jews they are. This is their land, and the Ethiopians certainly are very much part of that. I will leave some brochures for you. If you want to go to our website, you can see the programs we're doing, and we are trying now, as fast as allowed, to open summer programs for the children in some of the cities, for example, Rehovot and Gan Yavna, which have been severely bombarded. Thank you so much. It's always a great moment to be here. It's a hard day, but a great moment to be together.
Helen Friedman, the director of Americans for a Safe Israel, AFSI.
First, let me say thank you to Glenn for organizing this event every year. He does an amazing job, and we owe him a great vote of thanks. This is such a very, very hard day because not only does it commemorate the destruction of the 2 temples, which we mourn on Tisha B'Av, this is also the 9th year since the expulsion from Gush Katif. Michael Freund had a brilliant article in the Jerusalem Post just today, which AFSI put out, blaming all of these things that have been happening in Gaza, all the Gaza wars, on the fact that the Jews were expelled from 21 flourishing communities. Our organization worked so hard to prevent that from happening. We joined in all the demonstrations. We were in Gush Katif during the expulsion. Nothing could stop these people who said that we, who were opposed to it, were the Shlomazels. Well, I think we know now who the Shlomazels really were. It is also the Shloshim of the 3 boys, Gilad and Ayala and Naphtali, who were killed and who somehow or other were the spur that got Operation Protective Edge going to discover all these tunnels and all this evil that was planned. And of course, we mourn with very, very, very heavy hearts all those who were killed and wounded in this battle. I want to invite all of you to come to AFC's Jabotinsky event next Tuesday, a week from today in the evening. It's going to be held at the Fifth Avenue Synagogue. We have a series of excellent speakers. And why is this so important? Why is it so important to remember Jabotinsky, who died 74 years ago? It was because he knew. He said that we must have the iron wall. The iron wall is our only protection. What is the iron wall? It is military might. It is Jewish ability to self-defend. And if we don't defend ourselves, and if we don't have a military ready to stand up to the enemy, and no negotiations. He knew this. He was right. He wrote the Iron Wall in 1937. And he said then that there's no way to appease, there's no way to negotiate, there's no way to satisfy the Palestinian enemy at the time, the Arabs at the time. I don't use the word Palestinian today, but in 1937, Israel was Palestine. And he said there was no way to appease them. First you defeat them, and then, if possible, you negotiate with the moderates. But you do not negotiate and give away before you are the victor. And these are the words that we want to convey again on August 12th when I invite you all to our event. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Helen. And then we're going to break towards the end again for Rabbi Exler.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Aviנו Elohei Abraham Elohei Yitzchak Elohei Yaakov Elagol Hagimar V'Amarei L'Elyon Kamil Chasim Tavim Konei HaKol Zechei Chatzei Avos V'Miyol V'Namehem Roshon Yavo Melech Hazer Mashem Agei Baruch atah Adonai Moshiach Kol Gechayim B'Chesed B'Chayim Mesim Rachmim Rabim Samech V'Naflim V'Pechol Im V'Vatir Asurim Kayim Emunasah Tisha Afar V'Chamach Abal Givuras U'Midom Melach V'Chmim Yisamachaya V'Matmiach Yeshua V'Morato Achios Mesim Baruch atah Adonai B'Chayei HaMesim V'Kadesh Yishlom Tishmati Shemazo V'Shmeram Kakazan Yachab Karazaz V'Yamar Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh Anazal V'Varetz Kadosh Masam Baruch Yameru V'Kar Nebi V'Grei Kachcha Kazul V'Mar V'Machan Ona Hasim V'Dar Hallelujah Hallelujah Ningen Lacham Netasachim K'tushas Cham V'Tish Chagim V'Yam Shvat Ki Amakol Kadosh Atah Baruch atah Adonai Ho'el HaKadosh Adachni L'Odam L'Aslam V'Nishri Chanein Minchadei Avinu V'Askel Baruch atah Adonai Chanein Hadas Hashvein V'Vinu Sarsecha Kamein Malkam V'Dasecha V'Zein Mishchosh V'Necha Baruch atah Adonai Haratzeh B'Tshuvah Tzlachlan V'Yizatan V'Chalman Kinu K'Sham V'Kimochel Zaychata Baruch atah Adonai Chanon HaMabel L'Sloach Rei V'Nyeinu V'Ri V'Arveinu Goleinu Mehera L'man Shvachit Kigarel Chazakata Baruch atah Adonai Goel Yisrael Aneinu Adonai Aneinu B'yom Tzon Tanisenu Ki B'tzara Gedol Anachnu Al Teifenu L'Sheinu Al Tatzar V'Nachmenu Al Tisam V'Nachmenu Hayenu Karol L'Shav Zanin Yal Chazachal Nachmenu Tairem Nikol Achaneinu Kadar Shem Avar Tarin Karvan Yana Od Hem Dabi Van Yeshmak Yadonai Mesorah Podem Atibul Chayis Tzukah Baruch atah Adonai Hanebi Mesorah Refineau Nerei, and their Fayoshin Yaki Salinota, Ala Refua Shalem, Alhama Casenu, Demon Profanim Rachmanota, Progato Adonai, Profecholai, Among Israel, Parakalino, Nohena, Best Combination of Salt with those in Rabanadama, so many transformations in Gashan, Progato Adonai, the Varech Hashanim, the Kabba Shabbagadol, the Hamilton, the Mexican Bates, going of Satan, Gavsena Yachad, they are back on both hearts. Progato Adonai, the Kabbalah among Israel. As you heard the version of the same Bethel, and many of them, luckily, I don't know about the this I came about Mishpat, Progato Adonai. Therefore, hate to the calm, Mishpat. But I see my DC, the Holy Shogun, today, so that may grace you guys. Not to say, doing your second show is like a second year of the menu. Progato Adonai. Shabari, be more like as I deem. Ah, so the Kim Khazin got the Kim Khabisel, such as Remiel gave us a Tolenu. Yeah, we're not going to know him, saying that the whole but himself has to be you have a talk to Progato Adonai. Mishkan Miftach, what's Hadikim? Liver Shalai, Yamiracha, Berachamim Tashav, Zishkam Sochak Harjiba, Let's up the Karo, Yamenu, Bigan Alam. He said, Davin Behero Sakatachin, Nachim Arnahina Savalian, that's how you shine. Let's say, I've ever heard about Shomeva, Avela Hami, Blibana, Bakaron, yourself in the Goda, Ashumamania, Shavia Shemso, Shakafoy, Ishak, or Shoyolo, by your Lord, you know, the show they are very much in the Major, I was at the Kazian Council, the Martika, you shall I am the Tankala, Libi, Alhalayam, may I, Alhalayam, Yatanoi. Vaishitata, Vaishata, Silim Nasa, Kamur Vania Yalado, Marmot, Hamasai, Seville, Kababay, Yabsaka, Progato Adonai, Rachim Zion, Uvone, Yushalayim. That's how they're at the Kamehers and you cannot do Chisaka, Healing to us, Hakivin, and Kal Hayam, Progato Adonai, must be a Karen Yeshua, Shema Kalain, Wadlain, Chos, Verachim, and the Kabel Bakan of Zenu, Yashmea, Tilsach, Breakum, Altishmeni, Kantashmita, some place of Brachmim, Progato Adonai, Shamea Tekiwa, the Tendel Himian Places of so much of the Lewis and the Jesus of somebody got so, that's all they know is Rakas and Zananu, Shukal Siam Brachmim, Progato Adonai, Makrishkina Solitziah. What do you have to know? Shadonai, and when much of Haim and Shina.
While soldiers harass those fortunate survivors taken to be slaves, manacled and shackled and marched far away. I know that adverts advertise appetizing lies. Now reality has removed her disguise. Delusion has melted away and left you naked, exposed to a baseless hatred, wandering the earth with no dignity or safety, forced to flee before enmity. Hastily we learn to pack up what is really essential. We carry the temple deep in our hearts. Many times a day we pray for rebuilding. We pray for the day that nation will not lift up sword against nation, nor will they learn war anymore. But those words sound so empty when the supposedly civilized world won't prevent the propagation of preposterous prejudice, the creation of hatred and the genesis of enemies. The world so broken that the glow from the temple's embers still burns on our plasma screen TVs. It begs us to remember what happens when we exile ourselves from the tender touch of this gift that we've been given. Across the globe, sparks of light are hidden. And our mission is to unify our ancestral vision with the wisdom of every people. And so we've been scattered to learn and to teach, and given opportunities to listen and speak. And when we're ready, we will be gathered together to reach a unity too deep for words, in tune with all the people of earth.
Let the keynote begin the turn to a world of hope, and a world of repair, a world of Aleinu's words, L'takeno olam b'malchut Shaddai, to repair the world in the image of a God of repair, of a God of peace, a God of mercy, and a God of love. And so, as we sang this morning, B'tzeiti miMitzrayim, B'tzeiti miYerushalayim, our celebration at a moment of our nation's birth in exiting Egypt and our downfall in being exiled from Jerusalem, we ended with the prayer, V'nas yagon ba'anacha, sason v'simcha v'nas yagon ba'anacha, v'shuvi v'Yerushalayim. There will be rejoicing, there will be celebration, there will be the end to sadness and despair when we return to Jerusalem. Amen. But that's not a prophecy. It's not a statement that only when the Mashiach comes and we return to Jerusalem will there be joy and where there will be celebration. It's a challenge. It's an invitation to us today. Shuv Yerushalayim. Return to Jerusalem. If you have a chance in the coming weeks, buy plane tickets. Go and stand by her side and stand by the side of her residence. And if you can't be there in person, return in our hearts and our communities to Jerusalem, to a city which is a city of unity. This has been a time, as Yossi said earlier, of unprecedented unity. The gift we can give the Jewish people, the gift we can give all those who are victims, all those who are suffering, is to keep our unity strong, to stand side by side in defense of our homeland, in defense of the most extraordinary nation, a nation of peace, a nation of progress, a nation of unity, a nation of justice, and a nation of mercy, and a nation of kindness. So, let it be Shuvi Yerushalayim. Let these be days of our return to Jerusalem, in body, in spirit, in soul, in heart, and in unity, as we join in the Aleinu.
Shelos hanu goyei haratzos, Shelos hamanuk mishchas adama, Shelos ham chelkeinu kohem, V'gar aleinu kechol hamanam, V'anachnu korim, V'shachavim u'modim, Lifnei melech malchei amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Shonot Hashem נאמר היה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד. Pointers Kaddish. Amen. Hey, sure, I'm on board. I'm going Yisada, Yisaleh, Yisalo, Shmeid, B'Tro, B'Chu, Le'elo, B'Kol B'Chosa, B'Shidasa, B'Chosa, B'Nechamosa, B'Amidam, B'Yama, B'Moramein, Yehei, Lomarabba, Min Shemaya, B'Chaim Tov, Malenu, V'Kol Yisroel, B'Moramein, Ose Shalom, B'Momo, Huyasa Shalom, Malenu, V'Kol Yisroel, B'Moramein. Israel, Rashid Michal Gulatenu, again Oleha Biarbar Chazecha, Rosala Suka Shamacha, Ushlach Orcha Bamicha, Lurashea, Saravi Yonseha, the Takname Beta Tava Milfanacha, Chazek Tidemi Gineras Kutchain Van Claimel and Yeshua, Adad Nizachon Takrim and Azata Shambart, Samchenu, Simchat Olam Yoshua, Yatachenu, Kol Beit Yisrael, Pekadna B'chol Artzot B'Zurayam, V'talichem Mehira, Kuluyat L'Siani Recha, Yusham Yishkan Shmecha, Kakasum Tarat Mashad Dacham Yirad Midachacha, Mitzeh Shmai, Misham Yikabetz Chad Me'alcha, Misham Yikachecha, Yev Yachad Me'alcha Artzot Asher Yishua V'tach Yishta, V'ofa B'ha, Yishta V'eitivcha B'yirbacha Me'avatecha. V'yached Lo V'einu Li'ahav Yirad Shmecha, V'lishmor Kol Divrei Toratecha, Ushlach lanu mehira ben David shikach, Mashiach tzidkecha v'dof v'makei tzishuatecha. V'ofa ba'adar gonus all kol yishrei teil artzecha. Yomar kol Hashem nishama b'yapo. Adonai Elohei Yisrael melech. U'malchuso b'kol mashallah. Amen. Selah. Yerushalayim, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael Chai. Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael Chai. Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael Chai. Od Avinu Chai, Od Avinu Chai. Od Avinu, Od Avinu, Od Avinu Chai. Od Avinu Chai, Od Avinu Chai. Od Avinu, Od Avinu, Od Avinu Chai. Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael.
Okay, you can follow me.
Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael Chai. Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael Chai. Od Avinu Chai, Od Avinu, Od Avinu, Od Avinu Chai. Od Avinu Chai, Od Avinu Chai.
Here today. Today is Tisha B'Av, literally the 9th of the Hebrew month of Av. It's the saddest day on the Jewish calendar because of the calamities that befell the Jewish people over our history. And we wish that they weren't continuing to befall the Jewish people, but as rockets are being fired at Israel, the breadth and depth of Israel every day, and her people is in danger from an enemy that prioritizes its rockets over human lives, over the lives of Israelis and the lives of its own people, Hamas's own people. We're gathered just to raise a voice for peace, a voice for security, a voice against terror in all forms that threatens all people around the world. And so we gather today in prayer. We offer the afternoon service, which includes so many prayers for peace and for deliverance. And we raised up our voices at the Jewish people around the world, in France, in England, in so many places, Belfast, where synagogues have been attacked, in the Ukraine, where the Jews have been victims of persecution and oppression, that we should have the opportunity to live freely and safely and to teach our lessons of peace and freedom all around the world.
Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael Chai. Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael Chai. Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael Chai. Od Avinu Chai, Od Avinu Chai. Od Avinu, Od Avinu, Od Avinu Chai. Od Avinu Chai, Od Avinu Chai. Od Avinu, Od Avinu, Od Avinu Chai. Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael.
Okay, you can follow me.
Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael Chai. Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael Chai. Od Avinu Chai, Od Avinu, Od Avinu, Od Avinu Chai. Od Avinu Chai, Od Avinu Chai. Od Avinu, Od Avinu, Od Avinu Chai. Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael Chai. Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael Chai. Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael Chai. Od Avinu Chai, Od Avinu Chai. Od Avinu, Od Avinu, Od Avinu Chai. Od Avinu Chai, Od Avinu Chai. Od Avinu, Od Avinu, Od Avinu Chai. Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael.
Okay, you can follow me.
Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael Chai. Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael Chai. Od Avinu Chai, Od Avinu, Od Avinu, Od Avinu Chai. Od Avinu Chai, Od Avinu Chai. Od Avinu, Od Avinu, Od Avinu Chai. Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael Chai. Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael Chai. Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael Chai. Od Avinu Chai, Od Avinu Chai. Od Avinu, Od Avinu, Od Avinu Chai. Od Avinu Chai, Od Avinu Chai. Od Avinu, Od Avinu, Od Avinu Chai. Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael.